Welcome, friends. David Fisher, your host at the David Fisher Show, where we are trying to get a little bit better today than yesterday. All right, guys, I'm here at Fit Body Boot Camp, Amherst, New Hampshire, where our mission is to inspire fitness and change lives every day. So you get the theme there, one day at a time, right? Sometimes 1 hour at a time. So I want to jump into episode 29 here. I noticed that last week with my purpose over pleasure. That's actually the second time I talked about that. So it must be something that is near and dear to my heart. I guess it's really something that I've really been trying to figure out for quite some time. So that whole purpose over pleasure, if you get a chance to check out last week's podcast, well, it's also, I forget what number it was, but it's really, quite honestly, the second time I've talked about that. So I'm going to continue on with that alliteration with that letter P. Today's topic is the 5 Ps, right? Anyone know what the 5 Ps are? Well, I guess there's a couple of variations of this. There's the 7 Ps, for the 6 Ps. The 5 Ps that I'm talking about today, there's a marketing version of this, product placement. I'm not really sure what it is, but that's not what I'm talking about today. It is really more than that personal development. Oh, there's another P word. Proper planning prevents poor performance, right? 6 Ps, add the letter piss in there, piss poor performance. I think the British Army may have been perhaps the originators of the 7 Ps. It's proper planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance. So there's 7 Ps. It really doesn't matter, guys. You get the idea, right? How do you plan for success? And really, that's quite honestly what I try to do all the time. Some days are better than other days. Some evolutions are better than other evolutions. But I remember specifically the first time I heard about the 5 Ps. It was back when I was in college. Our pledge master, I was a pledge in this fraternity. Andy Pitts, I still remember him to this day. He's a comedian, does a hilarious impersonation of Rodney Dangerfield. Check it out. But anyway, one of the things he was trying to help us with as pledge master, helping us pledges, try to balance or figure out college, extracurriculars, pledging a fraternity, was the 5 Ps. Proper planning prevents poor performance. So if you can plan out your day, if you can plan out your week, you can perhaps figure out how to pledge a fraternity, not fail your classes. And, hey, there's, guys that were, on sports teams and, football players and, having to figure out all those other, aspects of life as well. So as a young 20-year-old, oh boy, to go back to those days. But right, this is not about, the good old days. This is about today. This is about trying to figure out for tomorrow, and that future success, right? Trying to get a little bit better today than yesterday. You get the idea. So it was really evident to me, I think, for the first time in the Marine Corps. I don't know that anyone ever really broke it down as like the 5 Ps or the 7 Ps or anything like that, but you quickly learned that in order to perform, you had to prepare. And by the end of boot camp even, you learn that, you don't sleep inside the sheets in your rack. Your rack is made, it is, bounce a quarter off that tight, and you don't roll around when you sleep. You literally sleep like this, close your eyes, get some rack time, and you have your uniform on, your boots are ready to go. Like, you're out of bed and your bed is already made. Like, you're just basically like straightening it out, like, boom, done. Everything is good to go. Uniform's on, boom, feet are in the boots, you're online, ready for, whatever the drill instructor is going to throw at you. Otherwise, you're the guy that's like trying to fix the bed, trying to straighten out the pillow, trying to figure out, like, oh my gosh, like, where's my belt at? Or I can't find, my chevrons, or whatever the case is. I mean, it just gets to be absolutely a recipe for disaster if you're not prepared, right? Because now you have a drill instructor kicking your ass, and you're in a world of hurt, at whatever, 4 o'clock in the morning. So not a good way to start off the day. So it makes for a very long and painful day. But if you are good to go, your rack's made and you're squared away, you got your uniform on, and you're hitting that ground running, then hey, excellent. A bunch of less problems you have to solve first thing in the morning. So that has really kind of, I guess, catapulted itself forward. It really wasn't something that I always have been able to implement. So there's plenty of times where I've not implemented, proper planning, and, had to try to figure things out. And quite honestly, it even made things harder for myself. So this topic became very evident to me this past weekend, hiking a local mountain here in New Hampshire called Mount Monadnock. Some of you may have actually heard of this. It is, come to find out, the second most hiked mountain in the world, behind Mount Fuji in Japan. Here, little mountain here in, well, I guess it's really not little. It's almost 3,200 feet. But it's outside of Metro Boston, so it's like an hour and a half from Boston, depending where you're leaving from. So it gets a lot of traffic, like literally 125,000 visitors a year that are actually registered. I'm sure there's way more than that, but it is one of the most popular mountains in the world, behind Mount Fuji in Japan. So who knew? Like, I've lived here for a quarter of a century and never been on it. Like, Sunday was the first time that I ever been on it. But couple things to share with you in terms of the 5 Ps. Coming down that mountain, I was out there with a buddy of mine. I typically don't hike alone, and we are actually training for a Spartan Ultra, so we're out there hiking the mountain, trying to run down it, as quickly as we can, especially given the conditions here in New England right now. It's autumn, so the leaves are falling, a little bit wet out there, super slippery. These rocks are so worn out from all the people that have traveled up and down them, that they're literally like smooth. So I fell twice. I'm fine, but literally, like, accidents can happen, right? But I'm prepared, right? I have hydration. I have gel in the form of, like, carbohydrates to refuel myself while I'm out there. I have, hiking, well, they're not hiking boots, they're Hokas, they're trail runners. That's typically what I wear. But if it were icy or anything like that, I'd probably have, like, micro spikes or yak tracks or something like that on my feet to help with traction. Wearing the right gear, whether it's layers or whether it's clothing that is going to wick that moisture off my skin instead of like cotton, that's going to just basically absorb it and hold it there, and even make me perhaps colder. I mean, weather here in New England is crazy. It was literally 80 degrees on Saturday. Family went to the beach, Hampton Beach, and it was amazing. I mean, the water was a little bit cold, but it was still, going from that to the mountains, it was probably like about 40 degrees. We were on trail about 6 a.m. and it was a little bit on the chilly side. But as we get up to the summit, so this is a kind of a unique mountain in that the top of it is completely like rock. There used to be trees there, I don't know, 150 years ago. They actually burned off the top of the mountain, trying to, I guess they thought there was wolves or something up there. I've come to learn a little bit out about this mountain, as it's really kind of fascinating, some of the history, not only the number of visitors that are there, but also why it's so popular. So it's a great view. You can literally see Boston skyline. You can see up north to the White Mountains or even Mount Washington. So we had an incredible sunrise, absolutely gorgeous. But we saw different types of hikers there, or people that were recreating on there. And it really kind of gave me pause to say, as we were coming down the mountain, coming up the mountain were a group of BC Boston College students. And a lot of them really probably weren't that well prepared. They were wearing like cotton clothes. They were wearing just like regular like running sneakers. And you can probably get away with that for the most part, but there are some tricky areas that are, you're scrambling up rocks. There was some water there, that again, with all the leaves and how smooth the rocks are, it can be, pretty dangerous. And it really kind of led me to spend some time thinking about, like, this is part of the reason like why so many people that are hiking, whether it's in New England or wherever, end up in situations that they didn't plan for. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, right? Like, so, certainly this happened to me. It took my, at the time, 6-month-old son up to Mount Washington. It's a 6,000 foot mountain up north in New Hampshire. And it was 85 degrees at the base of the mountain. And we took the Cog Railroad. We're sitting in this little train, go up the mountain. It's great, awesome scenery. But at the top of Mount Washington, it's a totally different climate. It was, probably like 30, 35 mile an hour winds. It was cloudy. It was kind of rainy. It was definitely cold. And I'm there in a tank top with a 6-month-old, carrying him in, like, one of those baby carriers, the Bjorn. My favorite thing is that I was carrying him around in that Bjorn. It was great. I basically wrapping my arms around him to protect him as we made it from like the train platform to the gift shop, to be like, oh my gosh, like we need sweatshirts, we need blankets. Like, we stayed inside the gift shop. We couldn't even go outside because we weren't prepared for the weather at the top of the mountain. And, once we got back down, it was, 85 degrees, and we had, $100 worth of sweatshirts that we, weren't going to need for another 6 months. But it was just really, again, not understanding what we were getting into, not being able to, probably we could have or should have prepared for it. It would have been great if, that was a little bit more evident as we were, with people that probably knew better, especially the people that worked there. But again, that's, learning things sometimes the hard way. And being on Mount Monadnock and, realizing that, the reason that there are incredible stat, 250 rescues a year on this mountain alone, from people that are not prepared. And I just wanted to try to fast forward that into like, okay, like how do you prepare for life? Like, the same way you do for hiking. Like, I get my stuff lined out the day before, I have everything lined up, and it's still, sometimes it's not enough. We were probably about, I don't know, maybe a mile into our hike, and I was starting to get a little bit warm, so I had a head cover on, and I went to pull it off and forgot that my headlamp was on there. So we started off, it was still dark out. It's, sun rises until after 7 a.m. And my headlamp came off, and when it hit the ground, the batteries popped out of it. Like, now I'm in the dark trying to find batteries, AAA batteries, in all these leaves and sticks and rocks. And luckily, my friend that I hike with, a little bit more prepared than I am, he had a pen light with him that had extra batteries in it, so I was able to use that, find my battery. But the lesson in that was like, hey, even having like a backup set of AAA batteries, like, for our headlamps, next time we're out during the night for a hike, that's going to be one of the things that we're going to have on us. I didn't have that with me. I had plenty of other stuff with me, but not that. So now I needed that and didn't have that. So you just learn, and that next time I'll be able to, make sure that, okay, well, that'd be one less thing that I have to worry about. But if you're up there in shorts and a t-shirt, and quite honestly, there was a guy, we summited, I forget exactly what time it was, but it was cold, it was windy, rain was starting to come in, and there was this guy in a t-shirt. Well, it was at least a dry fit shirt, and a pair of shorts. He was a trail runner, literally summiting, stopped to say hi. That was about it. Didn't even stop. I mean, literally back down the mountain he was going. But I was thinking about that. I'm like, wow, like he's probably done this mountain so many times that like he knows exactly where he's going. He knows how long he's going to be out here. Probably very confident. I mean, certainly confidence level has a huge play into, being that preparedness. That is not something that, at least as far as like hiking, like I have here, I'm pretty new to hiking. Like I literally like lived here a quarter of a century and just started hiking this year. But learning as I go here of, okay, like I don't want to be in a situation that like, I have to self-rescue or, have other people rescue me off the side of a mountain. And quite honestly, like I said, I fell twice and I was lucky, didn't get hurt and, was safe with those falls. Just really, quite honestly, just slipped. I mean, it happens. But that's how people get hurt. Somebody was saying that it was just the weekend before that somebody had to be helicoptered off the mountain that slipped and hit their head. So, I mean, it's literally can happen, that quickly. and I think there was a scenario where there was a Sunday that there was actually 3 rescues on that mountain in one day. But it just really kind of led me to think about more about how do I prepare? Like, how do I, prepare for my day? Like, I typically am preparing for my day even the night before. Like, my clothes are laid out, ready to go. I'm up at 4:10, so I'm not trying to figure out like what clothes am I wearing. Like, they're already there, ready to go. I'm just putting on my clothes and getting my morning routine in with my water and getting out the door. It helps to have that level of preparedness. A lot of times people talk about SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, and time bound. All certainly important in terms of trying to prepare for maybe like a milestone or something like that. We're doing a challenge here at Fit Body Boot Camp, and it's amazing watching some of the members try to figure out like, how do I prepare with my nutrition, with my meals? Somebody was going on a trip and taking a drive to New York, and it was like, okay, so here are the steps that I'm going to take to make sure that I have success. I'm going to have my meals already prepped. I'm going to have my protein ready to go. I'm going to have a plan in place for when I get into these situations where there may be like a lot of social drinking, and if that's not really something that you're doing, like maybe during a challenge or during a certain phase of your life. Okay, well, how am I going to handle those situations? Instead of reacting, you can be more proactive and have that, oh, okay, here's a viable plan that's going to lead to success. So that's really what I want to share with you today, guys. It's really, even for me, as simple as even like packing, right? A lot of people are going on vacation, right? Some people will get ready 2 weeks before, right? I don't typically do that, but sometimes that leads to, poor performance, right? So I very much am like, all right, let me just throw stuff together, out the door. I was out in California not too long ago and realized that it was cold at night and I didn't even have a sweatshirt. So not the end of the world, not life-threatening, of course, like being on a mountainside or anything like that. But okay, now I'm having to figure out like I need to get a sweatshirt or else I'm just going to be cold and miserable. So again, not the end of the world, but I should have probably had thought enough to plan better to have at least a heavy or a sweatshirt if the evenings are cold or I'm up early in the morning and the sun isn't even out yet. So having those types of levels of preparedness are, I think, probably, at least for me, helpful in trying to get a little bit better today than yesterday. So in case nobody told you today, let me remind you that you are 100% worth it. Thank you for tuning in. I certainly appreciate everyone that has been commenting and that has been subscribing and helping me grow the audience here. Until next time, guys, take care.